Do you think you'll ever go back? That type of...
I mean, if you wanted me
Well,
topless
all right.
on the front of nuts, then hey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Insights of Everything podcast with myself, Rob Moulton. That sounds a bit lame, doesn't it? But let's do it that way. I'm here today with an actor, a motor driver, is that how you say it? Yeah. A farmer and a dad of four. So I'm quite amazed to talk to him how he actually does anything with being a dad of four. But welcome, Kelvin Fletcher.
Thank you.
Good, lovely to have you here. Right, I wanted to kick off with a couple of questions, like I talked to you briefly before we started this, and I'd love to know whether these are true or these are false.
Okay.
So did you appear or co-present an episode of You've Been Frayed with Jeremy Beadle in 1996?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
You must have been, you only been at 14, weren't you, or something?
Oh, much younger than that. I think maybe, what year was it? I think I must have only been about 8 to 10, something like that. That was, yeah, so do you remember Jeremy Beadle?
Yeah, I do,
You've Been Framed?
Yeah. I
Massive
do,
show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
I think they brought it back, but like many things, when they bring it back.
Well, it was with Harry Hill, wasn't it, the second
was it?
time round, yeah. No. Well, sadly, Jeremy Beadle passed away, didn't he? So I think...
Yeah, and so the thing is that they had this piece where Jeremy Beadle was saying, listen, what I do here is people think it's easy, but it's not that easy. Nobody can do what I do, present a show, blah blah. I mean, anybody in the audience, any of you think you could do it? And then, as if by magic, there's a little cute kid in there that says, I think I could do it. And then he gets me up, and he won't be able to do it. Ridicules me. There's an auto cue. Can you read? Are you all right? Can you? That's what you've got to do. And then suddenly this kid just comes into life and manages to present the show. And that was me. So I had to audition for the part. So it was a little bit of a setup thing. But I remember meeting Jeremy Beadle in the audition room. And at the time I went in with the toy cars. That's how young I must have been, because I'd still played with little toy cars. Still got some now.
Yeah. Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels, yeah. And the car that I had was the car that he had in real life.
Really?
And it was lovely. It was a real gent. And but yeah, that's true.
Wow. There you go. I wasn't expecting that answer. I wasn't too sure. And then, so also, did you have a bit part in the enemy of Coronation Street before you starred in Emmerdale?
Yes.
And I think you're called The Lad.
The Lad. I think I've been in Corrie twice.
Right.
Prior to Emmerdale.
Okay.
And most recently, just before I joined Emmerdale, I was down to the last two for a regular to play Jack Duckworth's grandson.
Right.
In Corrie, and I just missed out on that part.
So the two episodes were the same character in both episodes?
No, just an extra, really. So first episode was just, I think, when Deirdre got stabbed or something under a canal.
You're talking to not a Coronation Street man.
It was quite a big storyline, and I was just a boy on a bike.
Right.
And another time, I think I did something in a chip shop or something like that.
There you go.
But that was it.
So you were destined for stardom at some point.
I don't know.
And Emmerdale scooped you at 96, right? I think
96.
96, and you were in it for 20 years? Yeah. Do you know how many episodes you were in?
Oh,
precisely.
No way. Yeah. A couple of thousand, maybe. I don't know.
2,134.
Okay.
To be very precise. And well, the question is, would you go? Do you think you'll ever go back?
I don't know. I've never really considered it, to be honest. It was very much a chapter of in my life, the one that I look back with just like the fondest of memories. But whatever, reread that chapter. Who knows? But I don't really plan ahead.
No. Well, the reason why I've asked you that question is because you do see. I know you've got plans, and we'll talk about those plans about what Kelvin Fletcher looks like, in the future. But I suppose we've all seen the types of maybe a lot of EastEnders characters have gone away, tried different things, not quite worked out, and seem to come back full circle. And 5-10 years later, they're back on where they were made, where they became famous. But so just don't know whether it's something you consider. I'm sure they never considered it in that period of time, but I don't know. It's just one of, because you weren't killed off, for example, so you've got the opportunity to do it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But
I never left with the intention of using it as a backstop. That I could go back. I've got too much respect and admiration for the place. I expect to learn my trade on the job. 20 years, from a young lad to a young man, and I got nothing but admiration for the show and what it gave me. And I just felt that artistically, I wanted to do different things. And unfortunately, contractually, time-wise, you can't do that when you're in such a full-time commitment like a, serial drama, like a soap. So theatre, film, come and do podcasts like this. There's a lot more freedom, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I didn't feel that Emmerdale could give me any more than it already had. I was 100% full. I was content. And
well, 20 years is certainly, you must have the watch and the plaque for being on for so long, surely.
Yeah, I wasn't the longest member of cast, but I think I was up there. Yeah. So
you mentioned, and we'll move on from Emmerdale shortly, but you mentioned going from sort of a man to a boy or a lad to a guy, and I think one of the biggest transitions I remember seeing as growing up was your body shape.
Okay.
Right, because I think from I'm going back in my memory banks here that from being as a not that scrawny kid, suddenly you became this male Adonis to a degree, right, at a certain age. So I'm keen.
Can we quote that, please?
Yeah.
Can that go on my Wikipedia page?
You can, yes. We'll edit it now. I'll get Dom to do it right now. But it's sort of, I'm interested to see, and especially when we talk about the future, but obviously fitness, and that became a big part of your life at that point. And I sort of I'm interested to know what drove you into taking that transformation.
It wasn't a conscious transformation. I think there's a number of factors. First of all, from Oldham, born and bred, and that's the heartland, like many northern towns, of rugby league. So a sense of physical awareness was always, throughout school. You played sport, I played sport, and I was never great. I was always quite small, quite scrawny, but I always had a big heart, and I was quite keen. So I would never kind of play county level, but always, at your school and you make your team, and knowing that I was the smallest lad on the team, I had to kind of make up for it in other areas. So, but rugby league was very much a big part of my upbringing. Played a bit of cricket, played a bit of football, but whilst doing that, acting was my main passion. So I'd be prancing around the stage and doing a pantomime or doing whatever, and that's where I really felt like I could excel. And my shortcomings in on the football field or rugby field, I made sure that I explored my artistic side more than anything else. And then, so I was always quite sporty. And I guess throughout my teens, I remember, I think it was the DW or JJB gym or whatever opened on
Dave Whelan.
JJB. I think it was JJB when it first opened, a retail park just behind my house where I live with my parents. And I was 15 or 16, and your body starts to change. What is funny as well, I went through my adolescence on TV in front of millions, and one day your voice drops and, your voice breaks, and you start to become a man, So people bring up these images of me being 12 years old, scrawny, and then at 19 years old with a bit of shape to me, and think that it's happened overnight. Yeah. At times it does happen overnight, but it was a long transition, but it's just quite easy to see the stark contrast when you compare just two pictures like that. And I think when that gym opened, it was just a bit of a social thing. Young lads, 15, 16, wanting to get a bit of independence. And we all just kind of joined this gym, £20 a month, whatever it was. And that was it was like, we're adults, we're like men now. Yeah. We didn't know what we was doing. No. So I started going to the gym, and that's where my kind of understanding of, a bit of self-worth and keeping yourself in check, really. So I'd stopped playing rugby by that point. I think I just maybe touch rugby or something, during the week with the team, but it was too risky for me to go have any sort of physical. You had huge amounts of time to do too much of your own time and socialising. Exactly, yeah. So it was just a case of keeping fit and a few beach weights, and that was it really. That was the start of a long love affair with keeping yourself in check. And since then I've gone on to cycling, rowing, whatever it might be, marathons. So keeping fit is something that I've always tried to do. Well, imagine now, as you're a farmer, being able to lift certain things and do certain things from being fit is paramount as a farmer, I'd imagine. But I wanted to did if I remember correctly, did you ever do? Well, firstly, how many topless calendars must you have sold in your late teens? Because you must have done a couple. I wish I'd have had royalties. I think I just did like a buyout agreement. I think we did two. Was it 2 or 3? There must have been an Emmerdale Farm one, and then you must have done one. Or do you remember Nuts and Zoo magazine, all those that were out? Did you ever do a? Well, I'm male. They were all for. No, but well, I know, but that type of. I mean, if you wanted me topless on the front of Nuts, then well, maybe you never know. It's a demographic, isn't it? But you never know. You never know. But I think those calendars came about because ITV was trying to get a little bit maybe sexy with and it recognised that it had some attracting a different demographic. Yeah, you had some young people across Emmerdale and Corrie, and I was one of those young people who were perceived as maybe a bit of eye candy. whether it's to the boys or to the girls, whoever. Yeah. And we had a good laugh actually, but you get oiled up and hair slicked back and a bit cringy when you look back. You know, a few press ups before the shoot and weirdly, I'm not a model. That wasn't me. That wasn't. So I did feel like a few of the other actors quite uncomfortable in that setting because it's us. I'm pretty confident with the script and I'm playing a fictional character. Yeah. You know, I'm all for that and I've got no inhibitions at all. But suddenly when I'm being Kelvin as a model and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not really, and then you're a bit conscious. Oh, I don't like that about me. I don't. Yeah. And you know, I was a young lad. What was I? 18, 19. You know, so but yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I've still got the calendars.
Oh, good. Well, literally,
I've not got them up. I've got them in my little
Joey is going to superimpose one on this for sure. It's just going to pop up, Mr. September.
The second one, because I think I made the front cover. In fact, I was front cover on the second calendar, but the first calendar, I think I was in better shape.
Well, our viewers might be the judge of that.
And it was the old training routine. It was the old training routine: arms, chest, the rest.
Yeah.
You know that old one.
Chest and biceps, back and triceps, all of those. the odd leg day every now and then. Don't skip it. Right. So look. Moving on, because I imagine the transition of having a life where, you know, up to 2016, having a life where you're probably dictated to a little bit about what you can and can't do. In 20 years, you sort of, in a way, institutionalised to a degree of your week. I don't know whether you even knew I knew there were 7 days, but whether weekends, you know, that sort of thing. And suddenly you've become, you know, Kelvin Fletcher again to the wider world. And I'm intrigued to see whether you made a conscious decision at some point or are trying to make a conscious decision of you as a brand, let's say, right? Or what do I want to do? Because you mentioned it earlier, you want to be true to yourself and do the things that you want to do, but in reality, you've got a farm, you're a dad of 4, and, you know, you've done Strictly, for example, which he won, by the way, right? Which is good. You know, are there times where you think you might have to go to the jungle, for example, or you might have to get your skates on and do dance on ice, just to sort of keep that presence going until you find where you want to be? Or do you think you found where you want to be?
No. Do I feel like relevance, presence? Do I need to go and do that? I've certainly found where I want to be currently. I'm present and I'm happy, you know, and I do the jobs I want to do. I never really feel a need, and this is my own, you know, the way I do things. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, and other people might have different ideas, but to go and do a jungle or something like that, then, you know, each to their own. You make those choices as and when, and for whatever reasons, whether that's a financial gain or an experience gain or whatever it might be. And I don't judge anybody for making those. You know, first and foremost, I'm an actor. That's my biggest passion, and I feel my strongest skill set, and what I'm most, what I find most of a challenge, and I still feel that the audience and myself have not explored. I've scratched the surface of what I know I can do artistically. You know, since leaving Emmerdale, I've done a few dramas, and most recently, you know, performed at the National Theatre in London. So I really still
Jack flies again, right?
Yeah, Jack absolutely flies again. Jack, yeah. And I feel like I'm only kind of just unearthing that, you know, that talent I feel like I've got, and I've always known. I feel like, you know, I've had, and I want to explore that. So I still very weirdly, you know, having been in the industry for over 30 years, I'm almost like on a
starting again
rebirth. Yeah, starting again. You're kind of going out, and it's only just starting now. Me as a jobbing actor has only kind of just begun. So, and it's the funny thing is, certainly I'm never conscious or aware or in need to make myself relevant with in people's, you know, to be in a living room, I've not been on TV for a few months. Do I need to go and do a reality show? That's never been my fame, and recognition is a byproduct of what I want to do. I want to be an actor. You know, I enjoy playing fictional characters or whatever it is. And, you know, Strictly is a little bit different. That was, of all those type of shows, that was a show that I really enjoyed and I wanted to be a part of. And they came to me and asked me, and
did all right.
And did all right. So, yeah, you know, however, I've got friends who have gone and done reality shows and done tremendously well, both financially and connected with an audience, because, you know, that's key at the end of the day. There's an audience there, and they like the idea of connecting with that audience. And I guess weirdly, I've done that through my farm show with a documentary series that I've been completely myself and hopefully authentic in what people see is you know, what they see is what they get, really, in a sense of it is me. There's no filter there. So I've not done that through a reality show. I've kind of done it through my own documentary series, really. So But that was through no way of me trying to stay relevant. I'm just doing what I need to do, and if that's relevant and that's what people like, great. If it's not, then
so be it.
So be it.
The question came because we're all bombarded with the Love Islands of this world and what that spawns, and social media is now. When you growing up in Emmerdale Farm, social media wasn't a thing really. Maybe towards the back end of it, and now opportunities arise on many angles and very different landscapes based on a TV appearance or a show you've been in, and suddenly you can be typecast, which maybe a lot of actors that you did are, or you're on Love Island, so you're only ever this type of person, or you're only ever going to do that. And I think it's refreshing that somebody that is in the public eye to a degree and has got a very good career and people know of you, to then go, right, you know what, I'm making that conscious decision to do what I want to do, because I'm sure it doesn't work for everybody, right, in one way or another. But I think it's great. And becoming a farmer, I don't know whether you've always been in that sort of world. I don't know whether your parents or your brothers or any of your friends have been farmers before, but I'd love to know, was that just an idea? Was that something a passion you've always wanted to do apart from acting?
I tend to just keep surprising people with every decision I make. People are always, I just never expected that. And, I think farming was, the irony is I played a farmer for 20 years. But what I said...
What you know about farming?
You could write on the back of a stamp. Not so much now. I've been doing it 2 years, and I feel like I'm a lot better. But that was just an aberration I had for the country living, I guess. Farming inherently is hard work. The values are quite simple. First and foremost, it's your family, it's your own business, it's the livestock, the produce you're growing, or whatever it is. It's just that sense of work hard and adversity, but embracing the unknown and just being at one with nature, really. And that's the element that I used to love and used to kind of be fixated on. And I almost felt like it was our calling, certainly for me and my family, not to go out and farm necessarily, but certainly to live a quieter, more simpler life in the countryside. A little bit not off grid as such, but and I
sustainable
felt like,
to a degree.
It's a key word, isn't it, at the minute? But
yeah.
I did feel that it would add a great contrast and adventure. The fun and the thing of the National Theatre or TV, whatever it is, and then a complete stark contrast. And me, with my kids in the middle of nowhere in our own little field, in our own little house.
Wellies on and all that, right?
And that was kind of where I found myself. And so it was funny. We were moving to California, beginning of 2020. Pandemic hit, so we postponed that for a while, and we've gone from California to the Peak District. So it's funny how it was a slight curveball, but
California twinned with the Peak District. I could see it.
You can see it. So my appetite for a quieter life, that's how it started. And then from there, I got an insight into farming, the industry. And yes, we're only a smallholder. We've got 120 acres. That's nothing on a commercial scale. But we just found it fascinating. And I think with the farm show as well, the documentary, it just made me think, this is unbelievable. I think I want to farm. And that's how the farming thing has kind of come where...
Did you go into the wanting a farm because of the TV series? Again, was that just a byproduct of it?
No. I wish the TV series could pay to justify buying the farm.
Yeah.
I don't want like that.
No.
That would have been quite a savvy move. I think that we decided to move house, seen a quiet place in the countryside. I was chatting to the BBC studios, developing show ideas for the future. As many of these things are, chatting away, bit of chit-chat. What have you been up to? We're just in the process of buying a farm. Really? 3 months later, we had a primetime BBC One commission. So it's funny how these things come about, but I wanted a new way of life, a different change of lifestyle for me, my wife and my family. And it just so happened that BBC found great interest in that, and we decided to create a TV show out of it. So the farm decision, lifestyle change very much came first, and the TV aspect came later. But then suddenly you realise, there is something here, and then you run with that, and and that's kind of what we're doing now. So
things can accelerate to a second series of the farm, right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that the it's not like you've dragged the family on with the rest of it. They've embraced it and they have the wellies on. And are they your kids? Your kids aren't. I think your eldest isn't too old, is it? But
no, a 6-year-old. They've not got a choice really, have they? They've got to do what daddy says.
Well, I just don't. Well, they might do what mummy says rather than what daddy says. But
Yeah.
are you up at 4 a.m. and doing everything? You know, are you fully embraced into it, or you?
As much as I need to be, you know, we've got 70 sheep. We've got some pigs. We've got a livery yard. You know, so we're pretty busy. This time of year is not that busy. You know, mid-March we'll start getting busier again. But we did all our tupping in November, so our breeding, you know, for our sheep. And then now it's just a little bit of maintenance, but really on the farm, you know, you get a list as long as your arm every day. If you wanted to, you could be out there 12 hours a day.
Yeah, of course.
But for you know, 4 young kids as well, that takes up a lot of my time.
Yeah, twins are the last 2, right?
And twins are the last 2, yeah. So it's been, so 4 a.m. starts, certainly for me during winter, you can't justify that because, one, there's no light. And there's nothing really to kind of do, you know, but certainly throughout the summer months and lambing, you know, beginning of April we'll be very busy. So those 4 a.m. starts will be a thing. But it's just a different way of life, and we we love it. It's just the whole family have embraced it. The kids have embraced it. The kids love it. My wife loves it, and we're all just figuring it out. It's been 2 years now since we've been there, and we've gone from knowing nothing about agriculture, knowing nothing about living rurally, nothing about farming. I guess like many people, unfortunately, nothing about, hardly anything about where your food comes from, and the you know, the absolute huge work and care and passion that goes into producing food. You know, from raising livestock to growing fruit or veg or whatever it might be, the amount of care that goes in as these farmers do. You know, and I've always seen it as a consumer. All I ever wanted to do was get the cheapest price, and suddenly you realise that there's been a compromise along the way, and it's one, it's not ethical, it's not right, and two, you know, you buy cheap, you buy twice sometimes.
True.
You know? So I've gone the opposite way as a consumer. I've looked for not more premium stuff, but I've looked for the backstory. I've tried to look where there's a little bit of fairness, where, you know, the man in the middle, the woman in the middle is not being absolutely shafted. So, you know, for me, it's a little bit more awareness, I guess, sustainable, you know, and buying local, buying British, stuff like that, you know, I've really become aware of, and hopefully as consumers we'll all start to be. And, you know, if it's really, really, really cheap in regards to buying farm foods and stuff.
It's been created cheaply, for want of a better word,
exactly,
or phrase, right?
Exactly. So
you touched on California was the dream. Is it still the dream? Is that part
it's still on there?
This,
it's still on there. You know, I have a list every year. I'll have a little list of things I want to try and achieve that year. But in the bigger picture, I don't plan anything too thingy. But there's a number of things that I would like to do. You know, that we would like to do, my wife would like to do. You know, we have some individual goals and aspirations and visions and ideas, and we have some collective ones as well. And then there's some obviously necessities. First and foremost, you've got to put food on the table, and you know, and sometimes as a parent, compromise yourself a lot of the time, because what I want or what we want, me and my wife, might not necessarily be the best for the kids. So there's that constant battle, really, and the ability to, you know, to compromise yourself, but not too much, because I still think it's important and imperative that I have my own freedom to go and pursue artistically or whatever it is for the better of the family. Naturally, they, as a byproduct, will get the benefit of that. My wife's the same, and I want my kids to be the same as well. I'm sure when they're 16, 17, I'll want them to be more than 500 feet away from me, because I'm obsessed with them. Yeah. But that's me selfishly. For them, it might be better for them to go and travel the world and do whatever. So that's when I've got to, you know. So it's just understanding that, really. And I think there's a number of things we want to do. So LA, California is still very much on the agenda, and I'm absolutely committed and convinced it will happen. When? I don't know. At some point it will, and how it will interact with our current life, I don't know. But I could maybe have a sheep farm in the Peak District and a cattle ranch over in Texas. I mean, that sounds pretty good.
That sounds amazing. To be fair,
6 months there, 6 months here. Yeah, tanned up.
Well, are you watching the? Do you watch Yellowstone?
No, I don't actually.
Oh,
no.
maybe you need to.
I've been recommended that.
It's brilliant. But I think anyone who's watched that show will have definitely have Googled ranches in Montana, right?
Yeah,
and they've gone, I can get how much?
And
how much?
Yeah, you're like, you get a lot for your money, don't you?
There's nothing there. There's no water, no nothing. But you can, I can get 400 acres for 200 grand. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. And do you still drive your tractor down the high street when you go out for a coffee?
Yes. Still, that's a little pass through. I think I went picking up a trailer that day when I was papped, and it ended up in the Mail Online, Daily Mail.
That's right, Daily Mail Online. Yeah.
My wife told me about that.
You parked well though. It wasn't like you took over the road. You did a good parallel parking or whatever you did.
I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, it's that happens a lot in those little rural villages. Just so happens that particular village is a good mixture between posh cars and the odd tractor.
Yes, you do notice the car in front and the car behind, so maybe you were sweating a little bit at a certain point, not to scratch it. So if I know you said you recently did Jack Absolutely Flies Again recently in the West End. Is that what you've enjoyed the most since you weren't doing sort of Emmerdale soap acting, or what have you enjoyed apart farm to side, because that's slightly different? But
yeah, farm aside, I guess as my day job would go, I've had. It's funny what kind of elements of a job you enjoy. There was one job I did over in Budapest. I think it's actually being shown on Netflix at the minute. It was for Channel 5, a drama called Teacher, like a thriller, 4 or 5 part thriller with Sheridan Smith. So I remember that. I think it was, when did we shoot that? Beginning of 21. But yeah, so to go and film in Budapest was it's a great experience. And the script and the character was great as well. So that was a little bit of a highlight. And then suddenly you're on the National Theatre stage in a complete different setting. As a medium, we're on stage as opposed to screen. And you're playing it, and it's a comedy role, and it's set in the 1940s, amidst the Battle of Britain. So completely different. And I guess completely different experience, really. I had to live in London for 3 months, and not Budapest, so it was very different, but it's what you take out of that job. For me, first and foremost is what am I going to take out as an experience. That's always, I think, the biggest gauge for me. And two, what artistically, where does this fulfill me at my artistic ambitions, and where hopefully will it see me on my path to achieving what I want to achieve. And certain jobs will aid that path, and other jobs, one would say, would maybe, divert it a little bit, but it's all about the journey, not the destination. Is that I'll come up with all the slogans now? Yeah. But they're the two biggest things I look at when I'm taking a job on, because as we all know, not every job always makes financial sense. Certainly, the one at the National Theatre didn't. I think it cost me to do that job. Inherently, the theatre, certainly the National Theatre, it's the absolute crème de la crème. Yeah, and the pay is probably certainly not what it is in the TV world, but it wasn't about that. It was finances for that particular job. It was a huge opportunity for me to perform at the National Theatre, something I've wanted to do since I was a kid. So
it's ticked a box, right? But
it certainly ticked a huge box, and didn't tick other boxes, but it doesn't have to tick every single box. And it gave me a great experience. I think as an actor, I learned a lot, and I'm a better actor for it. So I'll just continue to keep making those choices and decisions, really. And
do you think you'll ever? I have no idea, but you hear the stories about, I was an actor on X for so long, but now I have to go back into the audition room and I have to audition this, whereas I was expecting to get parts left, right and centre. But how have you found it being faced with, I'd love to do this role or that, and have you found it easy, or is it just going back to the start again and going, right, I've got to audition for this, I've got to build Kelvin Fletcher a bit to a degree about my acting skills and refine it slightly here, there, and you've enjoyed it, or because I imagine some people would not enjoy that.
Well, I guess we all want to walk into a job. It's a little bit easier, isn't it? And there's an element. I'd quite like to have to audition and just get the job offer, but then I'll go and prove myself. I'm not too bothered. I know I've got something to prove, so I'll go and prove it. It doesn't really bother me. So auditioning, if you was to start acting tomorrow, I think, right, I've done with this podcasting, this proper job. I'm gonna go and gallivant for a while and be an actor. And me and you were in the same audition room for the same part, because there's every chance, regardless of my 30-year career experience and profile. I guess this day and age, and rightly so. If there's the right person for that job, and if we're going up against each other, then I'd have no qualms about that, whether you're experienced or not. I don't really feel that I'm going at this with, I'm on a level above you. Prove us on that day, and the tests on that day, and that's the way it is, and that's the way I find myself currently. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going for parts when I started out my acting career. No, not necessarily parts I'm going for now, because I do feel like I'm at a certain level
leading
now.
Man, so you want,
absolutely, yeah. But that's not an ego thing. That's just if you've been.
It's every job, right? As you build your experience, you climb the hierarchy of whatever, right?
Exactly, so, yeah. So and that's where, but that's the challenge, and what people probably don't see is, I'll have a lot more failings than I will successes. You know, I'll get no more often than I'll get yes to a job for an audition. And that's just part of it. And
Yeah,
that's the
I think most actors would say that, right? And you know, it's always that one time. Or
I don't think DiCaprio says that.
Well, maybe
he probably says no more often than.
Well, he probably does, yeah. Not this script, but been that script. Well, you know, but I suppose again, he's
DiCaprio. If you're watching, next film, get me in.
He's tread the boards, maybe. And all that.
Absolutely.
So you know, when you've won your Oscar,
that's it.
When you can actually do it. When you
I've held an Oscar.
Have you? Is that your son? Your son called Oscar.
Russell Crowe's. No.
Have you?
Yeah, I've held Russell Crowe's Best Actor Oscar for Gladiator. Yeah. That's another story. Anyway.
That's quite cool. What about the winner of Best Actor at the British Soap Awards? What was that like? Do you still have it? Or do you have to give it back?
Yeah, I've got a couple of Soap Awards. Yeah, great. One is fantastic that they recognise serial drama actors. But two, the very sense that they've got their own awards ceremony, I think just really kind of rubs me up the wrong way. Really, you know, we're actors. Whether you're whether you're in the theatre or on film or whatever, you know, it doesn't. I just sometimes feel that soap actors are considered a little bit second grade.
Well,
and it's not the case.
What about talking about that? Is there a third grade? Would you ever do Panto, or have you done Panto?
I've not. I did a musical, like a bit of a hybrid, about 4 years ago. That over the Christmas period, so I guess it could be. It wasn't a Panto. It was a musical, but it was on a January slot, and it was great. Yeah, I'd definitely do Panto. I think, yeah. And it's not a. Yeah, Ian McKellar has recently.
Oh yeah,
Panto,
I mean,
so
Panto's moved on from it's the end of your career. Let's do some Panto, make a few quid. Now it's actually stars.
Yeah, it's great
because I imagine it's good fun.
It's great fun.
Yeah.
You know, I was with my friend Jason Manford yesterday. We was in the gym together, and he just come on the back of a 6-week run in Manchester in a Panto, and he absolutely loved it. You know, he just said it was fantastic, great experience, connect with the audience, and just a good laugh. And he goes to Pantos himself with his family, so you know, like everyone does. So. Yeah, I think it's. I've not done one yet, but I'm sure in the future I might do one. We'll have to see.
Yeah. Oh no, you won't.
Yes,
that was bad. So, talking about if America happens, right, in say 5-10 years, and you know you want to move on, do you think it'll be? Firstly, do you think it's obviously the transition would be into some form of acting over there, right? Or would it be something completely different, and you'd like to try something brand new? Because you know you come across as that you've got certain goals in your life, and it might be something completely different that you want to do over in America, in Montana or California or wherever. And do you think you'll have to start again to a degree, or are you hoping that part of your experience will help you?
Oh, I don't. I'm planning on this thing there. I'm trying to set a path that's I've probably got 2% control over.
Right.
A lot of those decisions would have to have been made by other people for that kind of idea to come true, really. And that, for me, just seems completely redundant and no point. So I'll just focus on what I'm in control of, and embrace the fact that if I was to go to America and I had to, you know, state my claim and come from the bottom, then so be it. Yeah, so be it. Or if I do an amazing British drama that puts me
on the map
over there, then I get the job, whatever it will be. But I don't really I've not got a plan as to, right, I'm going to do this job to hopefully get me there, I know kind of where I would like to be, where I feel like I'm destined to be, dare I say it. And you know, he's got a plan for me, so I'll just put faith in that, keep doing what I need to do and working hard, and we'll see.
Well, I mean, I think it comes across, obviously acting is number one, right? Obviously with family and everything else, and it'd be interesting. Do you think there'll be a day where you'll never want to act again? And would you want the kids to follow the similar path? You know, are you keen for that to happen, or they'll be whatever they want to be?
I think my daughter's she did a show recently, and she was on that stage, and I've never, you know, she's absolutely just in her element, dancing and singing and seeing that buzz. And it just so happens to be theatre, you know, if it was football, if it was chess, if it was whatever it was, when to see your own child light up when you just know. And I said to her, "Man, did you absolutely love that?" And she says, "Dad," and that just fills me with you know, that's whatever that is, I will
Yeah.
support you and follow that dream with you. Not that she's got a dream to be anything. She just
No.
loves on
Do-
the Thursday
yeah.
night rehearsal. She looks
Yeah.
forward to that. So that's all it needs to be. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking anything bigger. I don't be a pushy parent. She's 6 years old. You know, I'm 39. I still don't want to be when I'm older. You know, there'll be no emphasis from certainly from me as a father as to what you want to do, and just got to follow what you're passionate about. And with passion, it'll always, you know, you'll never work a day in your life, will you? If you're passionate about it and you enjoy what you do. So,
We hope.
you hope. But for me, there might be a day when I don't want to act anymore. I don't know. Who knows? I'd love to. I've done a little bit of directing. And I think I really kind of want to explore that more and work with actors. I've got a fascination for behind the camera. Just cinematography, how things are set up, and the look and the feel, and the, you know.
The farming series help with that, because obviously you would have been. It's there on your farm, and you're surrounded by it, and you're not in a studio, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You know.
Oh, I think naturally those sort of shows and that sort of backdrop, it's just complete escapism, and just, you know, I mean, the guys go out there for a couple of days at a time, film all the B-roll stuff. Focus.
Sometimes that's the best stuff, isn't it?
And that's what makes these shows, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is,
you
yeah.
know, just beautiful kind of stuff, and mixed in with a bit of music, and you just think, that is, and that's the difference. That's when you can make a real high-end show look, you know, a show look really, really high-end. And I think that's consistent with a lot of observational documentaries. Fundamentally, it's just a camera following, you know, the action, but without all those kind of B-roll shots and setting the scene. I think there'd be a very different show. So, but yeah, I've got a great interest in that, and we'll see. You'll see what the future holds. Jack of all, master of none, eh?
Aren't we all? I think in some sense. And what about driving and all that? Do you want to continue that passion of yours?
Yeah, that started out very much like acting, a passion that became somewhat another career, really, and that's kind of in me. I think it always will be in some capacity, whether that's you know, more of a team role or still driving myself. You know, who knows? I'm really keen this year to explore different types. I've got some opportunities elsewhere on 2 wheels and still in 4 wheels, but in other domains, really, like, if you like, other disciplines. So I'll certainly explore that. It's just managing time, really, and expectation, my own expectations.
You're probably quite a busy kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
I think.
You know,
and you sound like you've got the most wonderful wife in the world, if I'm totally honest with you. Who allows you to give this time. But I suppose you give it, I'm assuming you give it back, right?
yeah, absolutely. You know, you got to, happy wife, happy life, isn't it? But in her own right, she's got a TV job. I can't say, I don't know when this goes out, but she starts filming next week. So that she'll be on that for a few months. So she'll be, and I think that's important for her to have her own.
Does that help? Do you think that helps? Because you're in similar fields. Do you think you've got the understanding?
It's always quite hard with actors. You know, I've got a lot of friends who are married or to an actor, and it is that thing of it's feast or famine, isn't it? One member can be doing great, and you're the one not getting a job. And it can be quite, you just got to support each other, and it can be pretty bleak at times. You know, where it feels like you're just getting no after no after no. And that's just, you got to embrace that, really. And I don't really worry about that. I only worry about what's in my control. So I think what is good, regardless of what career you're in, is that you've both got something that you can feel your own. Yeah. You know, so my wife she's Liz. She's not a mum. She's not a wife. She's still got to be herself. And
I think that's extremely important.
I think, massively, yeah. And I think it's sometimes forgotten about, you know. And I'd like to think I've got the same. You know, I'm not just her husband. I'm not just dad. I'm Kelvin as well.
Yeah.
And
difficult though. That's difficult in this world, especially with all the things that you've got going on as well. I think it's. I think it sounds like you've got that balance quite nicely.
Well, you know, that's the one thing I'm always chasing is balance. Yeah. You know, that's the hardest thing to get right, and because you know you're ambitious, you want to achieve, you want to succeed, you want to progress, but then you know the realities of life are, you know, that nappy needs changing. That pig needs feeding.
Yeah.
Council tax needs paying.
Yes, all of that. Yeah.
So you know we're not immune to that, and you just gotta chase that balance, really. I want to be at every nativity play. I want to do every school run. Yeah. You know, I pretty much at the minute probably do 90% of the school runs. Yeah. Only because there'll be a time when for 3 months I think I couldn't do any school runs because I was working. So when you've got that chance, but our balance is sometimes 90% full tilt, knowing full well that you're going to have only 10%, a few weeks or months afterwards. So it's there's balance, but not quite the 50-50.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'd love to see, because I've got friends that at every year they map out their goals and they have a dream wall.
All right.
I'd love to see your dream wall, because we've tried it with my wife. I've tried this dream wall, and you've got all these things, and suddenly it just looks like a kid's picture, that they've done in nursery, because it's all over the place. I'd love to see yours, because I think from talking to you now and what we know before is there's always something else and maybe something else, and I don't mean that you're always looking for something else. I mean that you've got. It sounds like you're able to strive for those goals and achieve.
It's not always bigger and better. That's not, it's for me, variety is key. For me, that's what I enjoy. That's what I thrive on. And again, it creates that adventure, embracing the unknown, and taking. One could see that. Certainly, my dad would see that as risk, and I don't really recognise things as risk. But doing something different, leaving a job after 20 years to do something different, that's a huge risk in his eyes, in his mind. Whereas for me, it was like, I'm just doing something different. I'm going on an adventure. I'd rather do it and come up short and fail, than have never tried it at all. I've got no fear in failing. I've just got a huge, hang up about looking back and regretting and thinking I should have done that, I could have done that. And if I think I've got the minerals, then, and when nobody does else think that, and let me tell you, that's quite often, outside of my family and friends, and maybe my agent, or whatever career path you're chasing, there's a lot of people who probably don't share the same belief that yourself. And I think, well, if I back myself when others don't, then that's it. I'm determined, and I will do everything I can to succeed. And if I fail, then so be it. And I take that on the chin, and I've learnt more from my failings than I have from my successes.
And so, do you? I'm keen to know, because I think from what we've talked about today, it sounds great, right? And it's hard work, though, right? All of that behind the hard work. And I'm keen to know a little bit about sort of what else do you find that you need to, apart from the wife, is the support network you have around you. Is there other people that help you along that way? That might be outside of the family that you always need, or is that self-belief enough for you? We need a bit of luck. I mean,
we all need. There's an element of luck. I think it's trusting the process, trusting yourself. I think there's a number of factors. Even myself, who's very, I'm a huge self-belief, but that does waver at times. There are times when that feels a little bit delicate, and that's where you've just got to really kind of hone in on your little anchor there. And whether that's, my brother's a huge support for me. He's not an actor by any means. He's got no understanding or awareness of the industry, if you like, but he's got complete. Seems to have complete clarity, and he can put things in perspective, and suddenly he's got the ability to step out and have an outside looking in aspect and keep things so. That's regardless of what industry it is, then he's just got the answer, really. So he's kind of, I would say, my rock in that sense. A wife and friends and family, but I'm a big believer in, I'll burden my own responsibility, my own pressures, and I'll take that upon myself. And like I say, even at times when it wavers a little bit, your self-belief, you just gotta, for me, just stay strong and trust the process.
Well, this is good, and I think. It sounds like that you don't worry too much about your perception necessarily, because as long as you're comfortable and the people around you are comfortable, that's enough.
Yeah.
For want of a better word, which I think it. I don't know whether that's a generational thing, but I think that's quite unique in the current world that we might live in, which tends to be sort of the younger generation view necessarily.
Well, it will never be enough, you see. If I worry about things like that, we'll find ourselves, it's never enough.
Well, the grass is not always good, always chasing that dream, always the grass is always greener, right?
And someone will always find fault or find, and so shortcomings or whatever it is. And so I'm never going to fulfill those expectations or
of others, right?
Of others.
And it's always others.
And I've got, and there's no need to. And I know, as long as I can, be true to myself, then that's enough, really, I guess.
Look, I haven't got. There's no final question to try and make you cry. But I do. What we have tried to achieve is just ultimately have a conversation with you about, and there's some nice anecdotes and some stories in there to sort of learn a bit more about you. And we're coming from a business angle, of course, but it's very different when talking to an individual than someone who's owned a business, and they can tell me the journey and the things, and it's quite insightful. To your character is really interesting, I find, because I think you're not the norm. Let's say. I think everyone would like to be a little bit more like you to a degree. I think I've certainly taken some points of what you've made away today, and I will chat with my wife later about it, which will be quite interesting. I'll tell you how it goes. Or I come in on Monday with a black eye, you'll know how it goes. But look, I really appreciate your time coming down and chatting to us, and so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, Kevin. No worries.
Thank you.